Rank Part 5. Frank is attending an exorcism. In his eyes, it's one of the stupidest things there is, but an assignment is an assignment, and a job is a job. He watches the people involved as they focus on the poor man. He lies bound and gagged on the bed, while a priest and 3 other people stand around him. He's watching them without them realizing it. He's in the same room with them, but they can't see him. But he can be seen by what seems to be trapped inside this poor man. And that's something truly cruel. A monster, if you will. An evil spirit, as some would call it. Others would probably call it the devil himself. To Frank, however, it's just a poor sod. A damned poor sod, trapped in the body of a mortal. In the body it has taken possession of and used for a long time, along with the person and his entire personality that originally resided in it. And perhaps he still is. The priest is talking nonsense to the poor man, who is noticeably uncomfortable. The poor wretch doesn't even know what's going on here, or why he's tied up and now being treated as if he were cursed, which I suppose he more or less is. Though not at all what these men, in their stupid arrogance and conceit, think. The priest throws holy water at him while reading some crazy sentences and quotes from the Bible. He's obviously hoping the holy water will somehow burn his face, make him writhe in pain or some such nonsense. But none of what he hopes for happens. Nothing happens when he asks him to identify himself. And despite his repeated attempts to squeeze something out of him, he doesn't speak any incomprehensible words, nor does he speak any stupid language that nobody understands anyway. In the end, he has a fart, a common heart attack, and simply poops out. Just like that, without any dramatic incident. Very quietly and silently his heart stops and he dies. The priest curses him inwardly, because the idiot dared to make him look like an idiot. Neither did some stray spirit reveal itself in any way, nor did he rise up, vomit, or piss himself, or all the other stuff you'd normally expect from an exorcism, but he fell asleep peacefully and died, which of course annoyed the priest immensely. This is actually one of those situations, the truly rare moments, in which Frank enjoys his job, because in those moments he always enjoys it so much, when he can give such idiots a piece of his mind. But unfortunately, this isn't about the priest, or the few idiots who've gathered around the poor wretch. This is about the poor sod himself, who just died. So Frank refrains from giving the priest and his helpers a real piece of his mind, and concentrates on his work. Up until this point, he's watched everything boredly, without intervening. But now he stands up, causing everyone involved to freeze. They suddenly stand there as they really are in Frank's eyes, knowing nothing, suspecting nothing, but absorbing everything, and looking truly stupid. While everyone stands around completely motionless as if petrified, Frank grabs the soul of the man who just died, and whose soul is now about to leave his body.
Not so fast, my friend. You have all the time in the world, but not now. I won't allow you to leave yet. As unpleasant as it may be for you, you need to spend some time with me first.
The man's soul looks at Frank, puzzled, and asks him what happened and where he is. Frank explains things matter-of-factly. As matter-of-factly and politely as befits his character, Frank, the filthy pig.
Congratulations, you asshole just died. And now I have the thankless task of preparing you for your transition. Don't look so crazy. You won't have to deal with it for long. This will happen very quickly. But I can promise you one thing. Things aren't looking good for you, my friend. And what's not looking so good for you, or in other words, what awaits you, will last much longer. Indeed, much, much longer than our humble gathering here and now.
Whoa, what are you? Are you an angel or death? Why can you see me? And what's happening to me right now?
You poor bastard, you have no idea about anything, do you? You really have no idea. Surprising, considering everything you've allowed yourself to do in your life. But what surprises me, in turn, is the fact that you scumbags think you can get away with anything, live as if you were the pinnacle of creation, the measure of all things, reckless, without compassion for others, only focused on taking as much as you can. You do all kinds of shit, fuck your way through world history. Although I must admit, when it comes to fucking, I'm a little jealous of you, but as shitty as you are, when you screw up, you stand there, completely clueless, hoping and expecting absolution for yourselves. But what right do you have to expect forgiveness? Are you really that stupid, or are you just telling yourself this nonsense? I mean, nobody can really be that stupid. However, I have two pieces of news for you. The good news first. You're dead. That means you can't do any more stupid things or harm anyone else. That's really good news if you ask me. If not necessarily for you, then for many others out there. Now the bad news. That's not all there is to you. You've accumulated something in your life for which you now have to pay the price. Let me put it this way. You've lost. And across the board. Do you actually know JC? Yes, of course you know JC. Everyone knows him. He's the guy who came into our world 2,000 years ago and tried to explain a few things to you idiots. But what he wanted to teach you was all too complicated, too difficult to implement. So you took his teachings, persecuted the people who followed his teachings, and burned them at the stake, and cobbled together some bullshit that you call the Bible. And so you've twisted practically everything he tried in vain to tell you into its opposite. But let's leave it at that, otherwise it'll get too long, and I'd like to fuck a hot pussy today, if that's not too much to ask. So here's the short version. There was once someone who thought humans were like simple single-celled organisms, incapable of distinguishing good from evil, the important from the unimportant, and so on. This someone, however, was the smartest, the strongest, the wisest, and other superlatives and so on. But the Creator saw it all completely differently and condemned him to consider you his equals. The Creator, in turn, refused to accept this, and swore to prove to the Creator how incompetent and stupid humans really were. And he wanted to keep telling him this as long as the Creator believed that humans were on the same level as all the higher beings the Creator had created before humans, and as long as they existed. But there was someone else you had to take into account, at least if you were going against the Creator himself, and that someone was death. The devil soon realized that he would never win unless he won death on his side. And so, for ages, evil has been trying two things to achieve victory. First, he tries, so far in vain, to win death on his side, and second, at which he has been very successful to this day, to curse you with the curse of insatiability. And this is where you come in. You didn't listen to JC and gave in to the futile pursuit of being full, even though you should have known that you would never truly be full. Let me put it this way. Have you ever met anyone who thinks they don't have enough sense? I mean, have you ever met anyone who seriously says they don't have enough sense? Probably not. But you've certainly met people in your life who think they don't have enough money. No matter how much you have, you never really have enough wealth, right? You were one of those people, weren't you? You were one of those people who had so much money that you could have spent 1,000 times more every day than the average person earns in a lifetime, and yet your wealth wouldn't have shrunk a cent. And yet you were constantly striving to amass even more. Surprise. That's the moment when you realize it was all nonsense. You can't take anything you have with you. And now you too realize that even the worst shirt has no pockets, but tough luck, buddy. Now you've hopefully come to this realization, but it's about as good as a wet fart. So, what do we do now? Do we want to fart wet farts in a competition, or what do you suggest? Now don't look so stupid. What did you expect? You act like a complete bastard, and if you shit, paradise awaits you, right? On the other hand, you're not fooling anyone, and no, not even yourself. Because that's the place where everything gets slapped right in your face. There are no assholes so deep up your ass that you can see their faces as soon as you open your mouth, nor are there any people there who will bend over for you or in front of you. Well, my friend, you weren't expecting that, were you? In your life, you were a toddler, walking through a candy store, helping yourself to every last item on the shelf. You took whatever you wanted from every shelf. But now you're standing in front of the checkout. The only problem is, you didn't just help yourself freely and without consideration. You also snacked and gorged yourself on your way to the checkout. Although, I'll happily admit I still don't understand the why and wherefore. The Creator's compulsion to give his stupid lambs another chance to save their souls seems to be endless. And so, I'm supposed to give you some help so that even if it's much later, and by that I mean a really damn long time, in which you have to go through the worst of it over and over again until all your sins and misdeeds are atoned for, you can still save your soul. As soon as I'm gone, something else will come, and that something will be more horrible and cruel than anything you can imagine. It will do terrible things to you. I know I should probably prepare you more gently, but a filthy bastard like you doesn't deserve a litter. I would immediately inflict the worst on you. But as I said, the Creator and his urges, you understand. So here's my insider tip for you. If evil finds you, which it most certainly will as soon as I'm gone, because right now I'm the only thing standing between you and evil, preventing evil from taking hold of your soul. So if evil overtakes you, you must always remember one thing. You must not be afraid. Do you hear? That's very important. No matter what happens, whatever awaits you, whoever or what you encounter, you must not be afraid. If you are afraid, your torment will be unbearable. You will suffer far more than you can even imagine, but the less afraid you are, the easier you will get through this time when you must atone for your transgressions. So don't forget and always remember your fear is their strength. They feed off your fear. But the catch, as I said before, is that it's not a place where everyone grovels before you and praises you to the skies. No one there cares what you had or owned, or, for that matter, what you were. On the other hand, everyone just wants to feed off your soul. Since you have caused so much suffering and misery with your misdeeds, the bill for you on the other side will be correspondingly horrendous. Imagine, I know for such a high personality as you have always seen yourself as in your life, it is unimaginably difficult. But try to imagine for just one moment that you are a grain of sand in the desert. Now you are climbing, higher and higher, up into the clouds, and you have long since forgotten how to recognize yourself. That is how tiny you are in this world. And just as tiny and invisibly small as you feel now, or rather, as you no longer even recognize yourself because you are so tiny, so is your time on this earth in this life. It is such an incredibly brief moment, such a brief moment of your existence, in which you are in this world. But in that short time you can screw up so much that you'll still be suffering from it thousands of years later. And it will have repercussions for the unimaginably long time you spend on the other side. Shit. What if you only realize that after you've spent your tiny, brief time on Earth and screwed up as badly as you have? Well, and this is the aftermath when you know better than before. But let's get back to what awaits you and what's waiting for you. First, the good news. Even for a bastard like you, there can be redemption. The bad news, however, is that you first have to prove, which by the way you haven't managed for a single second in your life, that you're worthy of this redemption. If you close your eyes right now, you'll find yourself in a very dark place. You won't have any awareness of up and down, front and back. In fact, you won't even know if you're floating, standing in the air, because you won't have any feeling for your body. The only guidance you'll be able to get will be either a sound, which could be a very ordinary but extremely pleasant melody, or a song. It all depends on your own personality. If you can see something like a light, you'll only hear those sounds. No matter what happens, you mustn't hesitate for a second and keep going in the direction from which you perceive those sounds. Do you understand? If you stand in the way, your salvation is over, and you'll be stuck in absolute darkness forever. You'll then be, how should I put it? Nothing more than fodder for all the lost souls who will gnaw at you, who will tear and bite off pieces of you over and over again ad infinitum. Not much of a temptation if you ask me, so hurry in the direction of the sounds you'll hear. Only when you don't hesitate or wander but move directly toward the sounds will you hopefully quickly spot a light. This light will be your salvation, and only this light. Nothing else. It may be that your path as you follow the sounds lasts only a tiny moment, or, and I'm assuming this in your case because you're one of the biggest bastards I've ever met, this journey will take you a long time, a really, really long time, if you're unlucky, several hundred years if not thousands, and surprise, in all that time you will suffer. Experience much more and much worse suffering than you have brought upon others during your time here and in your life. Well, anyone who allows themselves to be seduced, who gives in to the curse of insatiability and simply can't have enough of anything, will also be given the wonderful opportunity after their death to receive so much that they could never have in this world. The only problem is that these aren't the things they aspired to in life. But wait a minute, I'll take you with me for a moment. I have no idea why I'm doing this now, but I'll just do it. Here, look at this little child. That's you. You're amazed, aren't you? You look so sweet, so innocent, so pure, but look, that's you too. Do you see yourself? Do you recognize yourself? how you scold that poor sod, and why do you do that? Come on, tell me. You don't want to tell me because you know full well it was wrong? I guess that's exactly why the boss never gives up hope and is so desperate to save everyone. It makes you uncomfortable, doesn't it? You sense and feel how wrong it was to attack that person like that. Above all, completely pointless, but you did it. You gave yourself over to the process and enjoyed tearing him down, along with all the other people, and you felt really cool doing it, didn't you? If everything we experience, everything we can decide is some kind of test or trial, then I can tell you that you failed miserably at pretty much everything. At least when it comes to selfless things. So if life is all about what we have to give to others, then you're one of the biggest losers, unless, of course, all that really matters is taking what you can for yourself. Then, however, you would be among the most successful people ever. I'm sorry for you, but you're not. You felt like a predator, and you could never understand why you were criticized here and there for your ruthless ways. But you always felt like a real predator and couldn't understand all the criticism. After all, in your mind, no one accused a lion of using all of its naturally gifted strength and speed to kill its pack. And that's exactly how you always saw yourself. In your mind, you weren't merciless, ruthless, and not far removed from compassion and empathy and all that stuff. You just used what you could, needed what you could use. It was all so simple in your ideas and your world. But you never wanted to accept that it wasn't that simple. Never realized that you weren't there for yourself, but that everyone and everything was a part of each other. You never wanted to accept that what you took more of was missing somewhere else. You were, to put it bluntly, not a great stallion, not an admirable human being, but simply endlessly stupid. Yes, indeed, because in your pursuit of ever more, you were never able to realize that in doing so, you had allowed yourself to be transformed from an inestimably valuable being into nothing more than an insignificant little cog. You were supremely content with your existence, without, however, being able to recognize that you had done nothing other than voluntarily allow yourself to be degraded to a small cog in the great wheel of life. You tried to snatch the best possible place for yourself in life, only to sit there waiting for your life to end. What a waste, I tell you. It's shit, isn't it? To have to realize in the end that you've completely screwed up. You didn't understand anything about what really matters. You only strove for what still doesn't matter. Well, and so we're now at the point to which you've led yourself. But I'm not here to revel in the sight of you shitting your pants in fear, nor to scare you. You'll have more than enough of that anyway. To be honest, I'm also here to make you understand something you've simply refused to understand all your time on this earth. Life doesn't give a damn whether your life is good or bad. It also doesn't care whether you exist, never existed, or are now failing. Life is simply there, nothing more, nothing less. But evil isn't simply there. It also rarely, if not almost never, manifests itself in a specific form. Evil is in its element when it makes people like you throw their empathy for their fellow human beings overboard. It doesn't just appear before us with horns on its head, glowing eyes, and an ugly face. On the contrary, it can't achieve anything in our world. It simply has no power whatsoever in our world. But it is nevertheless omnipresent, very subtle, barely perceptible, but ever present. And people like you who have succumbed to the curse of insatiability are the ones who enable evil to operate in our world. And that, my friend, is your real crime. There's no evil that appears before us and kills us, rips our heads off, or any of that shit. It only works to the extent that we allow it to work, by ignoring the feelings of our fellow human beings. When we condone the suffering of others for our own benefit, we enable evil to operate in our world. And in that respect, you are one of the most successful examples. When your time is up and you find yourself in a world you cannot imagine, don't ask yourself what you have done to deserve this. And you will ask yourself that question, I am convinced of it, and many, many times. But no one will answer you, because all the answers you are looking for have always been within you. You just repressed them because they didn't suit you. Because looking away was always so much more pleasant than looking. Because repressing was so much easier than admitting it. And now you are at a point where you can neither repress anything nor simply look away. The last thing I can tell you is the fact that from now on, as if from the very beginning, it all depends on you. If you sincerely repent and accept your future fate as a consequence of your own deeds and actions, the nightmare will end more quickly. But if you fear and doubt that what awaits you is the result of your own actions, you will only prolong your suffering. And now, close your eyes and exhale. This is the end of your path. Now your journey continues to another level. Farewell and never forget, the salvation of your own soul lies in helping others to save theirs. No one saves their own soul by trying in vain to save their own soul. That can only be achieved by constantly striving to help others. That, my friend, is precisely where you screwed up miserably. You failed completely and utterly, and now you have to pay the price. What is it? Why are you looking at me like that? Are you so afraid of what awaits you on the other side? Well, it's too late for that now. You've had your time and your opportunities. I don't want to be so mean and tell you everything that awaits you, but to create a little suspense for you, I'd like to tell you about a few others I also had to send to the other side. You might not believe me, but there was this bum, a really nasty wannabe gangster, a really nasty little bastard. He organized illegal dogfights, and do you know what he got for it in the in-between world? He was attacked again and again by a pack of dogs, and every time, literally every few minutes, he was torn to pieces. I have no idea how long he had to endure it, but the idiot died a truly brutal death every time. I once had a child murderer too. These are the worst of all filthy scumbags, the lowest dregs humanity can produce. In the in-between world, he had a constant encounter with particularly filthy beasts, and they all loved him terribly. At first they were incredibly nice, even giving him sweets and shit. But it never took long before they showed their true colors and repeatedly and painfully raped this wanker with their truly thick cocks. And every time they had fucked him, they killed him again and again in the most bestial way. Some were even so cruel that they gleefully watched him bleed to death internally, in miserable, unbelievably painful agony, and these assholes had to endure this over and over again for years, some even for centuries. But don't worry, not everyone has it that bad. I've also met people who suffered from constant hunger and had to die of hunger over and over again. They sat at tables so lavishly and invitingly set with all kinds of delicious food, yet they couldn't eat any of it, nor could they keep anything down. They immediately vomited as soon as they took even the tiniest bite, and the food, as delicious and tempting as it was, seemed to them like the worst lumps of acid wrapped in the most tempting wrappings. I could give you endless examples like this and many others, but that won't do you any good. As I said, you had your time and your opportunities. You didn't make the most of this time of your life. Instead, you voluntarily surrendered to the curse of insatiability, and now you look stupid and would love to undo so many of your misdeeds, right? Admit it, I can see it anyway. Death is the only just thing in life. It happens to everyone, whether rich, poor, gay, beautiful, whatever. But if you'd given it a little more thought, you would have understood that this justice also applies to the other side. You know, the most important book in the universe is the one that isn't printed, the one that isn't even written. But nevertheless, it's always there before us, omnipresent, and we don't even have to speak a specific language to understand it, because it's written in one of the universal languages that every human being already knows from birth, like smiling and all that, you know. And this book even has a name. It's called the Book of Observation. Yes, honestly. As stupid as that might sound, it's really true. But you never had time to observe and learn. You voluntarily gave yourself over to the hasty pursuit of more and more, because you always wanted to achieve more, to line your pockets more and more, and to take more and more. Now you've spent a whole life driving yourself in a pointless game that can't have a happy ending. You haven't even looked into the book of life and therefore haven't understood anything. Now we're both standing here. One of us, a really cool slut, a real stud in bed, who loves nothing more than to give every woman a really good time, who has seen everything, experienced everything, and is literally fucking his way through world history. That would be yours truly. And then we have a complete idiot who's currently shitting his pants. He's just realizing that he can't take any of the money and beautiful things he owns with him, things that aren't even of any use to him. And the worst part is that he's actually screwed up completely, even though in his own eyes he was incredibly successful and owned everything. Well, like I said, if you had taken the time every now and then to open the book of life, to look a little deeper into it, to observe life a little more closely, you would be somewhere completely different now. Shit, right? Between you and me, my job is sometimes really stressful. More often than not, it's downright shit. Especially when I'm sucking some really tight tits and fucking a hot, wet pussy. But then I have to work and don't get to fucking come. But sometimes, like right now, I just really love my job. Even the best joke in the world loses its funny side if you hear it too often. But the stupid faces of people like you when they realize their failure and what they've done and now they have to pay the price, I swear. That sight is almost hotter than the hottest pussy. It's not quite the same, but it's pretty close to a really good fuck. And one of the best things about it is the fact that it never loses its fascination. Unlike a joke. The term retributive justice has a completely different meaning where you're about to go than the one we humans usually understand in this dimension. But hey, I really do much prefer being a lousy asshole to being a good fool, but somehow I can never be a complete asshole. So I'm going to tell you a secret. Our Creator, the infinite energy, you can call him God if you like if you get off on it, has the stupid habit of never leaving a soul behind. The good news is that there's no such thing as hell, or any of that nonsense. The better news is that even assholes like you experience true redemption in the end, sooner or later. Yes, really, no one is left behind, and no one has to endure endless torment. And in the end, we all return to the source from which we once set out on this journey, which we commonly call life. And so you too will find your way back to the original source from which we all once came. The only trouble is that everything that once came from us, whether good or bad, will first rebound upon us in a 1,000-fold form. Let me guess, this is the moment you say you should have listened to Jesus, right? Yes, I'm quite sure of it. If it makes you feel any better, I know him personally. Jesus, that is. No bullshit, honestly. And he really is that, and so incredibly much more than we think. And yes, you jerks will meet him too. Surely you know his words. No one comes to the Father except through me, right? Want to know a secret? Yes? Okay, I'll gladly tell you another secret. First of all, Jesus never spoke of a God. Everything that has been handed down in this regard is nothing more than stupid fiction by some carnivores who were only too happy to reverse his teachings. Just like everything we read in the Bible. He only ever spoke of Father when he spoke of the Creator, the infinite energy. And all this missionary nonsense that so-called Christians have perpetrated all over the world is nothing but a massive hoax. Because Jesus didn't mean, believe in God and you'll be saved. When he said that no one comes to the Father except through me, he didn't mean a fat old man with a white beard, but that he is good. That he is a part of true omnipotence, and here's the punchline. Just for you, in case you're scared of what's about to happen, and would rather shit your pants than understand my words. Jesus is love itself, and whoever wants to see him only needs to give others joy, even if it's just the tiniest bit. Jesus is omnipresent. In the eyes of people who experience joy and love, in the carefree play of a child, in the innocent frolicking of a little dog, even in the simple beauty of a flower, Jesus, and thus true divinity, true joy, and the only truth, can always be seen. But as I said, you never wanted to take a look into the book of life. Now I've really annoyed you enough. A hot fuck awaits me, for you, an unforgettable experience. My final advice to you, don't be afraid. For fear's the only food of evil. Evil feeds solely on our fears. If you can do that without lying and deceiving yourself, then you too will have a pleasant journey through this in-between world. And the more afraid you are, well, the more terrifying your journey will be. I've had enough now. I'm getting out of here, fuck it. From now on, may you act as befits an angel.
End of part 5.